Good morning and welcome to the Daily Light Devotion. I hope all of you have had a wonderful 21st of January, that is yesterday, and looking forward to today, that is the 22nd of January. Today we're going to start in the Old Testament from the book of Exodus, chapter 1 to 2 and 3, right? And the theme is the deliverer, the God who hears, and the great I am. That is what Exodus 1 to 3 we will be seeing Jesus through. In the New Testament, we are looking at Matthew chapter. We are looking at verses 21 to 39 today, and we will complete Matthew 15. Exodus 1 to 3, 2 and 3 open with growth, suffering, and oppression. God's people multiply in Egypt, but fear rises. Bondage tightens its grip amongst the people. Yet behind the scenes, God is preparing a deliverer, right? And Exodus 1 to 3 reveal Jesus as a true deliverer, the compassionate God who hears, and the great I am who saves. Israel grows rapidly in Exodus 1. We see the more they are more oppressed, and the more they multiply. Verse 1:12 says in Exodus, the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied. Pharaoh, who was the king, responded with cruelty and fear, and this was a different Pharaoh than the time of Joseph. Right. Oppression cannot cancel God's promise. And Jesus later declares, I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail, in Matthew 16, verse 18. Right? What the enemy intended to crush, God causes to grow. And the Hebrew midwives fear God and fear God, which is a good fear, and refuses Pharaoh's command. The midwives feared God and did not do as the king of Egypt commanded them to, all the male babies to be, handed over and killed, right? In Exodus 1:17, right? And God honors their obedience. Obedience to God brings life, even under threat. Jesus obeyed the Father under death. He humbled himself by becoming obedient to death. Philippians 2:8. Holy obedience releases God's power, right? So Moses is born under that decree, hidden in the basket, drawn out of the water, raised by Pharaoh's house. God preserves the deliverer within the enemy's system. That's how God works, right? And Jesus was born under that order, so it's a foreshadow. And Herod gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem in Matthew 2:16. So God protects his purpose even in hostile environments. Moses flees to Midian. 40 years pass. God shapes a prince into a shepherd. This is because we know that he killed, an Egyptian to protect a Hebrew, and he ran away. So Jesus is the good shepherd. He prepared through humility. I am the good shepherd, John 10:11. So God often prepares his servant in hidden places. This is what we see in Exodus 2, right? And Exodus 3, Moses encounters God in the burning bush, the fire without destruction, holy ground, a holy calling. So God declares, I have indeed seen the misery of my people, and I've heard them crying. Exodus 3:7. So Jesus sees the suffering and responds with compassion. When he saw the crowd, he had compassion on them. Matthew 9:36. God did not distance from pain, he stepped into it. And the great I am, God revealed his name. I am who I am in Exodus 3:14. The name speaks of eternal existence and power. Jesus declares, before Abraham was I am, in John 8:58. Jesus is the eternal God who saves. And the deliverer is not sent by God alone. He is God, right? And God sends Moses to confront Pharaoh. Deliverance begins with obedience and faith. And Jesus proclaims, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me to proclaim freedom for the captives, in Luke chapter 4, verse 18. So God sends his chosen ones to bring freedom. And we see the key takeaways from these three chapters in Exodus 1, 2, 3 is God grows his people under pressure. God hears the cry of the oppressed. God preserves his deliverer. God reveals himself as a I am, and Jesus is the ultimate deliverer. So that's what we get from these three chapters. In Matthew chapter 15, verses 21 to 39, we see faith that breaks, that's the theme, barrier, compassion that multiplies, and the bread of life. So Matthew, these chapters move us from confrontation to compassion, from rejection to restoration, and from scarcity to abundance. In this passage, we see Jesus responding to persistent faith and revealing his heart as a compassionate provider. Jesus welcomes faith that reaches him, and he satisfies those who come to him. Verses 21 and 24, Jesus goes to the region of Tyre and Sidon, outside Jewish territory. A Canaanite woman cries out, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me." At first, Jesus remains silent. Jesus' mission begins with the Israelites, but always includes all nation. Because verse 24 says, "I have sent only to the lost. Was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel." The moment tests faith, not compassion. Right? Silence from Jesus is not rejection. It's often an invitation to deeper faith. Verses 25 to 28, the woman kneels and pleads. Jesus said, "It's not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs." Her response is humble and bold and of faith. She says, "Even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from the master's table." Jesus answered, "Woman, you have great faith. Your request is granted." So Jesus responds to humble and persistent faith. "Whoever comes to me, I will never drive them away," John 6:37 says. Faith does not argue with God, it trusts his goodness. Right? And the Gentile woman understands what many insiders miss, just to see Jesus as the Lord, Son of David, Son of mercy. Jesus honors faith whenever it's found. Right? Many will come from the east and west, Matthew 8:11 says. So access to Jesus based on faith, we have access based on our faith, not based on our background. Verses 29 to 31, we see Jesus heal the lame, the blind, the crippled, the mute. The crowd glorify God. Jesus restores completely, bodies, soul, and spirit. He took up all our infirmities. Isaiah 53:4 says that. So when Jesus is present, restoration is what flows, right? And verse 32, Jesus says, I have compassion for these people and have already been with me for 3 days, right? He notices hunger before they ask. Jesus is not only powerful, he's deeply compassionate, right? And because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed. Lamentations 3:22. Jesus cares about spiritual and physical needs, right? Verses 33 to 38, 7 loaves and a few fish and 1,000 are fed. 7 baskets are left over. Jesus is the bread of life. I am the bread of life. In John 6:35, he says that. The number 7 points to completeness. God's provision is sufficient for all. What we place in Jesus' hand is multiplied. The miracle happens in a Gentile region. Jesus feeds not only Israel, but all the nations, right? The gospel is for everyone. Whoever believes in him shall not perish, John 3:16. What are some of the key takeaways? Faith that is persistent moves God's heart, right? Jesus welcomes outsiders. Compassion flows from Christ naturally. Jesus heals completely, and Jesus multiplies what we surrender. So I want to encourage you, faith breaks barriers, right? Compassion meets needs, and Jesus is more than enough. No one is too far, no need is too small, and no faith is unnoticed by him. So these are the encouraging, powerful truths about our Savior. Meditate on them today and have a wonderful Thursday. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.